and happy STAMPtember, friends. This is Yana Smakula, and today I'm super excited to show you one of the new STAMPtember exclusive collaboration sets, the Celebrate the Season set by Clearly Besotted. I have a Christmas card to share with this set, so let's jump right in. As I work on my card throughout this video, you'll see me change my mind quite a few times. Sometimes I just don't know what I want, and that makes planning a project a little more difficult. I'm starting to work on my card by stamping this beautiful wreath image in Copic marker friendly ink in black color on Simon's Sea Glass cardstock. I want my card to have a light blue background to it, and this is why I'm using this color of cardstock and not white. I'm a huge fan of using colored cardstock for my cards, even if I plan to do some Copic marker coloring. Copic markers aren't the best medium to use in colored cardstock, but I'm all about breaking the rules. So why not? I have also stamped a sentiment on this panel, and had I stamped it straight, I probably would have gone with it, but I later noticed that it was stamped a bit crooked. So you'll see me crop this panel later and go with a different greeting for this card. Like I mentioned, I plan to color this card with Copic markers. Copics are not the best medium to use in colored cardstock as well, they're not opaque, and that means they will not cover the color of the cardstock. For example, you won't be able to use a very light pink on this blue paper and still have that pink look like pink. It will have a little bit of a blue tint to it, and it just won't look the same as if it was colored on white. But if you select darker marker colors, you can get away with coloring on colored cardstock. Still, the colors will be a bit more muted and definitely not as vibrant as they would have been on white paper. I'm using G99, G94, and YG03 colors to color the leaves on this wreath. I'm all about simple coloring, 3 or 4 color blends, nothing special, just going from dark to medium to light and to dark again if I feel I want to intensify the shadows. This paper is not the best option for Copics as it was simply not designed for coloring, but it does work. You just need to be careful not to oversaturate the paper as the marker will easily bleed outside the lines. I did have some bleeding happen here and there, especially when I was coloring with freshly refilled markers. So keep that in mind and be careful. Less is more. This beautiful wreath can be stamped or oriented differently on the card. I have it facing up here, and I will place a bow at the bottom, but you can just as easily have it facing down and then have the bow at the top, or even have the wreath face sideways and have the bow on either left or right side. I have already colored the berries, and I used R27 along with R24 markers. I will later add a white pen highlight to each berry and will coat them with glossy accents for a beautiful dimensional finish. To color the pine cones, I used E79, E37, E33, and E31. You can see that the darker marker colors color over the blue background quite nicely, and there's no blue showing on the finished images. This wreath has many beautiful flowers, and I decided to color some of them blue. I picked blue because of the background color, and I just wanted it to complement the flowers. I used B05, B02, and B00 markers. For the flower centers, I first used a yellow marker, but later colored them white using a white Sakura pen. White really popped against the blue background. Poinsettias were, of course, colored red. I say of course, but really these can be colored in many different colors, including blue. I'm a fan of traditional colors, so this is why I picked red. I used R89, R39, R27, R24, and R22. The R39 marker is a little bit dry, and I don't currently have a refill to refill it, so the blending wasn't perfect there, and it actually shows on the card. Next, I used a Y35, Y15, Y11, and YR15 colors to color those last flowers. Here you can really see how that blue interferes with the yellow color, especially that lightest yellow. The yellow is getting a bit of a green tint to it, all because of the blue background. But still, I think it looks okay. Here you can see me adding the white flower centers and the highlights to the berries using size 10 Sakura pen. This stamp set also has a separate bow image. I stamped mine in black on white paper. I colored it red and cut out right up to the edge. You can see I'm being rather careless here and coloring outside the lines. It doesn't matter as this will be fussy cut right up to that black stamped line. To add some definition to the wreath, I used a C1 marker and outlined this image, creating a subtle drop shadow effect. I did go back in later with a C3 marker and deepened that shadow. When you first apply the marker, it will look quite dark, but as it dries, the color will become lighter. So while I did think that the C1 would be good enough at first, once it was dry, it was obvious that it became too light, and thus I added a C3 one. To add even more interest to this panel, I used Malibu ink from Simon Says Stamp and ink blended the edges of the panel very lightly, darkening them, and thus directing the eye of the viewer of the card to the center where that beautiful wreath is. When I was ink blending, I blended over the sentiment and it had smeared the ink. This happens to me every single time when I blend over black ink, and I just never seem to learn or to remember to not do this. So that in a way was like the last straw with that sentiment. It was stamped slightly off, it was slightly smeared, and just something had to be done. I ended up trimming the panel at an angle and also cutting it down just a little bit. Cutting it at an angle gave me enough space on the card base to restamp a different sentiment for this card. I used Merry Christmas. It comes from the same stamp set. I stamped it in black ink using my mini MISTI, and that really helped to pull this project together. I had also already white heat embossed a sub-sentiment that reads "From our house to yours," and I embossed it on Simon's Schoolhouse red cardstock. The whole purpose of using a blue background for this card was so that I could add some faux snow to the background. For this, I once again used the same size 10 Sakura pen and added a bunch of dots all around the wreath, mimicking a blizzard. I debated adding snow over the wreath, but I was actually too chicken to do it, so I left it as is. Using foam adhesive, I adhered the panel to an A2 white card base. I added a sub-sentiment and a bow. Next, I coated the berries with glossy accents and then used stickles and frosted lace to coat some of the fake snow dots. I hope you'll give this idea a try. If you do make a card inspired by this video, we'd love it if you shared your project online and tagged us on social media. We love seeing what you make. Happy STAMPtember and have fun stamping. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. I'll see you next time.